It was 1976. Audiences were glued to their televisions every week, following Jaime Sommers, a former tennis pro turned secret government agent. She wasn't just any agent, she was the Bionic Woman. Faster, stronger, smarter, and nearly invincible. People watched with awe as she ran through walls, lifted cars, and faced impossible odds. But behind the dazzling stunts and futuristic gadgets, tension had been simmering, and it all came to a head during one episode that changed everything. No one expected it. Not the writers, not the actors, and certainly not the fans. One scene would shock viewers, make headlines, and quietly mark the end of an era. Jaime Sommers wasn't just a superhero. She was relatable. Audiences saw a woman balancing strength with vulnerability. Unlike other TV heroes of the time, she struggled with emotions, relationships, and the moral weight of her powers. Lindsay Wagner, who played Jaime, was a rising star, but she poured herself into the character. She wanted Jaime to be more than just flashy stunts. She wanted the audience to care about who Jaime was, not just what she could do. The show, a spin-off of The $6 Million Man, hit ratings gold. Jaime became a cultural icon. Young women admired her, kids loved her, and the network couldn't have asked for a better heroine. But as popularity grew, cracks started showing behind the camera. Production for The Bionic Woman was grueling. Each week demanded dangerous stunts, heavy makeup, and long hours under hot studio lights. Lindsay Wagner often had to perform scenes in harnesses or run across dangerous terrain, not an easy feat for anyone, even someone trained. And it wasn't just the stunts. Writers and producers began pushing storylines that Wagner and other cast members found increasingly difficult to perform without compromising the integrity of the character. Some episodes leaned too heavily on sensationalism, while others relied on recycled plots. By the third season, morale on set was low. The chemistry between the cast had frayed, and the pressure to maintain ratings led to tension between Wagner and producers. It was during this period that the infamous scene was filmed. The episode in question was supposed to be a high-stakes, dramatic installment. Jaime was sent on a mission that seemed straightforward: rescue a scientist from a high-security facility. But the way it played out on screen was far from ordinary. During a climactic moment, Jaime faces a moral dilemma. She has the chance to use her bionic strength to neutralize a threat, but is told it could cause collateral damage, potentially harming innocent people. The tension on set mirrored the tension in the script. Directors called for multiple takes, but Lindsay Wagner grew frustrated. She felt the scene was poorly written and that it undermined the intelligence and moral complexity of Jaime's character. After hours of filming, the scene was finally captured. But when editors and network executives saw it, they panicked. The depiction of Jaime using her powers in a morally ambiguous way, even hesitating, was unlike anything audiences had been shown before. The scene aired, and the reaction was immediate. Critics called it controversial, while fans were divided. Some praised the show for adding depth to Jaime, showing that even superheroes struggle with decisions. Others felt betrayed. Jaime was supposed to be perfect, unwavering, a symbol of justice. Behind the scenes, the fallout was even worse. Network executives feared the scene could alienate viewers and hurt ratings. Writers were criticized for deviating from the established formula. Lindsay Wagner, caught between her artistic vision and the network's demands, began questioning her future on the show. According to crew members, the atmosphere during filming after that episode was tense. Meetings were more combative, the camaraderie less genuine, and each day on set became a struggle. What makes this episode infamous isn't just what happened on screen. It's what it revealed about the show's future. The Bionic Woman had always been a symbol of female empowerment, a role model for viewers who wanted more than just a damsel in distress. But the scene showed that even the strongest characters, and the strongest actresses, have limits. It exposed the gap between creative ambition and network control. It was a turning point. Ratings began to slip slightly, advertisers questioned the show's direction, and internal disagreements reached a peak. Some insiders even claimed that the scene directly influenced the decision to cancel the show. Executives believed the series could not continue without compromising its vision or alienating its fan base. By the next season, plans for the show were winding down. Lindsay Wagner moved on to other projects, seeking roles that allowed her more control and creativity. Production on The Bionic Woman ceased quietly, leaving fans without closure. Years later, Wagner reflected on the scene in interviews. She admitted that while it caused tension, she was proud of the risk. It wasn't just a dramatic choice, it was a statement that characters, like people, aren't perfect. They struggle, They hesitate, they make hard choices. And yet, fans often debate whether the network overreacted. Some argue that if the show had continued, it could have evolved into something even more groundbreaking, showing a superhero who was human, vulnerable, and morally complex. Despite the controversy and eventual cancellation, the Bionic Woman remains iconic. The show inspired generations of female heroes on television and in film. Characters like Buffy Summers, Sydney Bristow, and even modern superhero leads owe a debt to Jaime Sommers. The infamous scene has become a talking point in fan communities. Clips are shared online, often labeled as the moment everything changed. Scholars and TV historians point to it as an example of the tension between creative storytelling and network control. It also illustrates the pressures on actresses during that era. Lindsay Wagner carried the weight of the show, the audience, and the network's expectations, all while performing physically demanding stunts that few actors attempted. Even decades later, fans revisit the scene. It's studied, debated, and sometimes misunderstood. Some see it as Jaime making a mistake. Others see it as her humanity shining through. What's undeniable is that it changed the course of television history. The Bionic Woman was never just entertainment. It was a commentary on heroism, gender roles, and the moral complexity of using power responsibly. The infamous scene wasn't just a plot twist. It was the turning point that defined the show's legacy. It's the reason people still talk about Jaime Sommers, Lindsay Wagner, and the series nearly 50 years later. When The Bionic Woman ended abruptly in 1978, fans were left with more questions than answers. But the story didn't end there. Behind the curtain, Lindsay Wagner and her fellow actors had to navigate a sudden shift, from being household names on a hit series to figuring out what came next. The end of the show was more than a career setback, it was a turning point in their lives. Lindsay Wagner, the woman who became synonymous with Jaime Sommers, faced a daunting reality. She had been the central figure of a show that combined physical stunts, science fiction, and drama, and the network's decision to end the series left her at a crossroads. Initially, Wagner was cautious about typecasting. The role of Jaime was so iconic that any new part risked comparison. She turned down offers that seemed repetitive or shallow, determined to find roles that could stand on their own. In the early 80s, she starred in television movies like Nurse and Women in White, taking on characters that were more grounded and emotionally complex. She also returned to theater, performing in stage productions that allowed her to flex her dramatic skills. But Wagner never fully left Jaime Sommers behind. Over the years, she reprised the role in various reunion specials and made-for-TV movies, including Bionic Showdown, The $6 Million Man and the Bionic Woman, 1989, and Bionic Ever After, 1994. These appearances reminded fans why the character had become a cultural icon, and Wagner embraced the connection even as she explored new paths. Beyond acting, Lindsay Wagner became a voice for women in Hollywood, particularly around physical safety on set. Her experience performing stunts and working long hours under pressure gave her insight into the challenges faced by actors, especially women, in the industry. In later years, Wagner also dedicated herself to personal development and teaching. She wrote books on self-help, wellness, and creativity, sharing lessons learned from life on and off the set. Jaime Sommers had once inspired viewers to believe in human potential, and Wagner, in real life, extended that inspiration to those seeking growth beyond the screen. Richard Anderson, who played Oscar Goldman, the government agent overseeing both the $6 Million Man and the Bionic Woman, had a more understated career trajectory after the show ended. Anderson had always been a steady presence, providing a balance to the extraordinary abilities of Jaime and Steve Austin. After The Bionic Woman, he continued to work in television, taking roles in dramas and guest appearances that capitalized on his authoritative screen presence. He never reached the same level of fame as Wagner or the sheer cultural impact of Jaime, but Anderson remained a respected figure in Hollywood. His work behind the camera and mentoring younger actors kept him active in the industry long after the series concluded. Martin E.U. Brooks, who played Dr. Rudy Wells, was a crucial part of both the $6 Million Man and the Bionic Woman. After the series ended, Brooks continued working in television, appearing in shows like Kojak and The Rockford Files. For Brooks and other supporting actors, the end of The Bionic Woman meant returning to guest roles, theater, and occasional film work. While they didn't achieve the same celebrity as Wagner, they maintained steady careers and, in many cases, stayed connected with fans through conventions and interviews. One aspect of the show that is often overlooked is the physical toll it took on the cast. Lindsay Wagner performed stunts that were intense and often dangerous. She suffered injuries on multiple occasions, and crew members recall long filming days in difficult conditions, from rooftop chases to fight sequences in studio parking lots. These experiences left a lasting impression. Wagner often spoke about how they taught her resilience and discipline, even when the network was critical or the production rushed. The infamous scene that contributed to the show's cancellation was emblematic of these pressures, a creative risk that highlighted both the human and professional limits of the actors. Though the show was short-lived, its influence is undeniable. The Bionic Woman introduced a new kind of female hero, competent, physically powerful, morally complex. Jaime Sommers was not just a sidekick, love interest, or comic relief. She was the star, and audiences recognized that immediately. The show inspired generations of writers and creators to place women at the center of action and science fiction stories. Jaime Sommers' DNA can be traced in modern superheroes like Buffy Summers, Sydney Bristow, and even characters in the Marvel and DC universes. Fans continue to celebrate the series. Comic conventions regularly feature Bionic Woman panels, with Wagner appearing to talk about the making of the show, the challenges of performing stunts, and her experiences portraying Jaime. Vintage clips circulate on social media, introducing the character to new generations. Even the infamous scene that contributed to the cancellation has been discussed in documentaries and fan retrospectives, often cited as a pivotal moment in television history where network caution collided with creative ambition. In later years, Lindsay Wagner participated in interviews and special features, reflecting on her time as Jaime Sommers. She was candid about the difficulties, the triumphs, and the scene that would ultimately end the series. She explained that while it was a painful decision to walk away, it allowed her to pursue roles that gave her more control and creative freedom. In many ways, the cancellation of the Bionic Woman became an opportunity for Wagner to shape her own path, one that extended beyond a single character. Fans still remember the show fondly, often citing Jaime as a hero who inspired them to believe in their own strength. The show's short run did not diminish its impact. If anything, the abrupt ending has contributed to its mythic status in pop culture. What makes the Bionic Woman relevant decades later isn't the special effects, the bionic limbs, or even the espionage plots. It's Jaime herself, a woman with flaws, responsibilities, and a moral compass navigating extraordinary circumstances. The infamous scene that helped end the show now serves as a study in television storytelling. It's cited in academic discussions about character complexity, network influence, and the representation of women in media. And while the show is often remembered for that final turning point, the larger legacy lies in how it reshaped expectations. It showed audiences that female leads could carry action-adventure narratives, tackle ethical dilemmas, and remain relatable, all while inspiring generations to come. The Bionic Woman may have ended abruptly, but its impact never faded. Lindsay Wagner went on to build a diverse career in acting, writing, and advocacy, while her co-stars continued working steadily in television and theater. The infamous scene remains a defining moment, not because it was scandalous, but because it revealed the pressures behind producing groundbreaking television. It reminds viewers that the actors we love are human, and that even iconic shows can face limits when creative ambition meets network caution. More than 40 years later, Jaime Sommers still resonates. She is celebrated in pop culture, remembered in documentaries, and honored in fan circles around the world. The show may have left the air, but the message endures. Strong women, complex choices, and stories that challenge expectations never truly disappear. For fans of the Bionic Woman, that infamous scene is more than a plot point. It is a symbol of courage, change, and the timeless power of a character who refused to be ordinary.